And this is something I don't ask everybody because it's a difficult question, and it really will challenge you to say something that people aren't going to agree with. So the question is the Peter Thiel Paradox, and we've talked about this a little bit, but what is one thing that you believe is true that nobody agrees with you on?
And you sent that to me last night, and I sat and thought about it, and I'm like, in the fact that I'm having a challenging time coming up with it, I'm like sitting here thinking, man, maybe I am sitting in my own echo chamber, like all my friends that I politically debate, argue about, accuse me of. Like, man, I just, I wish I could say I think the Earth is flat, but I know it's round. You know, I mean, like, I've just had a really challenging time thinking about that. I mean, like, what have most people said, or what? Do you have an example, or what? Like,
well, mine, the one that, and so for me, they hit me like a meteor, right? Like, I think that you have to have this question on your mind so that as you're working out or as you're focused on something, you know, you can have an idea and you can decide, is this something I want to pursue or not? But a while ago, I had the idea that I think that East St. Louis is one of the saddest places on earth. Like, it does not fulfill the human innate desire for people to have productive work, to have the ability to progress and move yourself forward. And I think a lot of that has to do with the politics of the state of Illinois. So my point of view is Missouri ought to put together a pile of cash. And when Illinois finally hits the skids and they can't afford to pay for all the things that they have to pay for, we offer to buy that entire area all the way out beyond Cahokia Mounds. So a lot of people don't realize that Cahokia Mounds is one of the great indigenous culture sites in the entire world. There's these mounds, there are these pyramids that are the largest in the Western Hemisphere,
they're
north
awesome.
of Mexico. Yeah. It's amazing. And it was an old culture that was here that disappeared. And I think we should be bringing back the value of the Mississippi River, the industrial corridor that's right there, and create a space where people that want to start businesses or do things that are normally reserved for some other place to be done there, and allow a human experiment of freedom and liberty to try different types of businesses there that we're not trying right now. And I think that we'll see that regenerate. And you could end up having East St. Louis look like Brooklyn looks onto Manhattan, where you're on one side of the river and you've got a beautiful side, and you look over at the other side and it looks beautiful too.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually never thought about that, but I can tell you now, one of my closest friends has a business, Gateway Motorsports Park, where we just talked about the Indy racing stuff.
Oh, that's right.
Over there.
Yeah.
And he's been very successful over there. And, you know, I think a lot of where his success is coming from is it used to be owned by out-of-town owners that used to say at the Madison, Illinois IndyCar race, and nobody showed up. He has made that a St. Louis asset, and he's pulling from this side of the river to go over there and use that. I think you're right. I mean, it's pretty despair. I mean, it's, you know, I'd never thought of a concept like you just said, but I certainly wouldn't argue on that. I mean, I think we probably need to, get our own downtown in shape first. I mean, you hate to be.
That's a fair point. From
a city where, we're top two on murder, everything, everything. And now we're in the news for, we're always in the news, it seems like, for, kind of ridiculous sort of reasons. And I don't mean anything ridiculous.
But I'll tell you that I think that the idea of St. Louis is actually a transcendent idea. And so I grew up north in Peoria, Illinois, the center of Illinois. And there's like a dividing line between, are you a Cubs fan or are you a Cardinals fan? And nobody was a White Sox fan. I don't think I met a White Sox fan until I was in my 30s.
I actually finally met a White Sox fan. I'm like, where do you live, man? Because I've never met anybody that's a White Sox fan.
So, but I think that when you come to St. Louis, you start realizing that as far as our broadcast would be taken out so people could hear games, you had parents and their children or grandparents and their children listening to this sporting event. And every once in a while, they would decide it's worth it to make the journey into the city to check out the sports and have dinner and then go back. And what you find out is that entrance and then exit into the city is like a beating heart. And it's like that explains what is St. Louis. And it's not just St. Louis proper, and it's not just the county. It's a larger idea. It's an emerging mega region, and I think it has culture. And so I don't really want it to be the Illinois-Missouri divide or even St. Louis city versus county or any of those things. I want people to think about, like, how do we make this area transcend the very thing that you're talking about, that when people hear about it, they only think about the bad things, but they don't realize that this is a place of culture and really interesting people like you.
Well, I think you're exactly right. And I don't know that we actually met that first night, but the first time I heard you speak was at the charity where it gets
the launch code event.
The launch code. And you gave about a 30-minute speech about St. Louis and its history and what makes it so special. So it's very clear to me that you're very passionate about St. Louis. And I asked Travis, I said, man, who is that guy? That guy, what a great speaker, and what a great topic. So I really appreciated that. And now you're sharing this. It's clear that you're very passionate about St. Louis. I'm passionate about St. Louis. I was born and raised here. Half of my friends, live in California, LA. Hey man, when are you going to move out here? It's like, dude, I'm never going to move there. I love St. Louis. I love St. Louis because it's right in the middle. I love St. Louis because I'm rooted here. My business is here, and it is such a great city and great community, surrounding it. And I think if you can translate that into what you were talking about to to where people are driving from the middle of Illinois to come see the Cardinals and eat dinner and such, I think you could really accelerate and grow St. Louis and make it as special as it once was. Because I mean, we were the gateway to the West, and it's that's a big deal. And seeing ourselves in the news for the wrong reasons is obviously not what we're looking for. So
I think the challenge right now, at least as far as I can see, is that people on all sides, and it's not one side versus the other, everybody's frightened, right? And it's really easy to feel and inhabit your fear and say that the other people's fear is not okay. But if I were to try and find somebody that lives in St. Louis City that I could just talk with, I don't know how I would do that. It's easier for me in the world that I live in to find an IndyCar racer that is doing business all over the world than it is for me to find even people in my own neighborhood. And there's something about technology that has both opened up the world, but it's also divided it in a way. And that's a challenge that I want to figure out with other people, how to overcome that.
Well, I think, I just listened to your podcast with our mutual friend Eric Schmidt, and he kind of talked about, kind of technology and social media, kind of being the dehumanizing aspect of our communication, and it, especially when we're stuck in our homes. I mean, and it's, I think that, I don't know where to take it. It could be a 3-hour long conversation, but the reality is, I mean, when people get together and look face to face and, and you start realizing, like he said, that, hey man, I don't agree with you, but I see you're a great father and a great family man. It's all of a sudden you're past all that crap, and you just can't, I do it myself. I mean, I tell my kids to get off their phone, and then I'm sitting there going between Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And it's just like, what the hell am I doing? So I think that really, I think there's a lot to be said about that, man. Technology is dangerous. I mean, I think we all saw Terminator, man. Skynet's around the corner.
Thanks for checking out this podcast short. If you liked it, make sure you hit the subscribe button and don't forget to hit that bell. Also, if you'd like to support the podcast, you can always join the Articulate Ventures Network, where people get previews of the show early and also get to meet other Articulate Ventures Network supporters from all over the world. The link is below, or visit articulate.ventures.